I thought I'd talk about something you don't often hear referenced when discussing Pompeii. Flowers, and in particular gardens. In the 1950s, Wilhelmina Jastrzębski started looking into gardens at Pompeii, and this was quite pioneering research at the time, and it's led to some amazing finds, because through looking at what was in the gardens at Pompeii and how people were using the gardens, we can learn a great deal about them. Take, for instance, the house of the Garden of Hercules, so called because it had a statue of Hercules in the back garden. When this was excavated, it was noted this wasn't just a property where things were being grown just for the sake of it. They looked into the garden and found out that in fact it was a commercial property because it was focused on growing flowers, and it was growing flowers to make perfume. When Jastrzębski and following that research, other people started looking into the garden. They found raised flower beds. They were able to look into the pollen types there. They found it was lilies, roses, that kind of thing. And they also noticed that there wasn't much what we would call weed type pollen in the flower beds, which meant that this was obviously being weeded or certainly looked after. And in terms of irrigation, there were irrigation channels, there was a system. This was really quite a developed way of what effectively was horticulture. The evidence that was perfumes, by the way, was that in the building attached to the garden there were lots of empty bottles and perfume bottles. So the relationship there is relatively easy to establish, and it's thought that the flowers would have been cut as well to make wreaths or sold at the local market. These don't seem to have been sold out the front of the building, as is often the case with gardens. It was probably done at the local market along with those perfumes. Looking at gardens therefore gives us a sort of insight into the life of Pompeii that you don't often get, and let's face it, is a bit more cheery than the other stuff that you normally hear about Pompeii. And I'm going to do some other videos about some of those other gardens if you want. Let me know. If you've got any questions or comments, stick them in the comments. Otherwise, click follow.